Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here with my good friend Andrew Nack, founding member of Cali Nation, among other projects. And I'm excited to. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm excited to take a few minutes here and just catch up and share kind of your story with the audience, and also get to know you a little better and hear some updates that we were just talking about before we went on air. So yeah, man, thank you for joining. Glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from, how you got started, and we'll go from there.
I grew up in Salinas, California. Um, lived there. My family moved out from Minneapolis when I was 3.
Okay.
Uh, Went to Castroville School for kindergarten.
Oh wow.
And
Cool.
I have a story about that school, but I'll probably save that for another day. It was a fun story. I got jumped my first day of first grade.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It didn't end with anything but a bruise. You know, bruised impression of the first day of school for a little guy, but it's all right.
Cashville in the '90s was rough.
Yeah. So this would have been, oh shit, you still there? Okay.
Yeah,
This would have been like, I would have been 82. I'm an old guy.
you're not that much older than me, bro.
I'm 47.
Yeah, so okay, maybe yeah.
So I would have been 5 years old, born in 77. So it would have been like 5 or 6,
Early
83.
'80s. Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. Crazy.
My folks moved out to Salinas shortly thereafter. We were staying out in Oak Hills back when we first moved here. And yeah, Salinas was an interesting upbringing, man. I don't know that if I'd pick it in retrospect, but I'm glad it ended up that way, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of the general consensus a lot of people have is like it's so random and it's like a love hate, but like if you're from here, like you get it, you love the people. There's also some challenges, some frustrating things, but overall it's tough to beat the food and the weather and the people. But
True.
there's other things that are challenging. um, how did you okay, so you guys got moved around a little bit locally. How did you first pick up an instrument, or what kind of drew you to music?
So I remember I was like in fifth or sixth grade. Let's say sixth grade, just for the sake of having something. There was this kid, and he brought an acoustic guitar to school, and I was like, man, this kid is cool. And so I was like, Mom, I want a guitar. So I turned 12 years old. I got an acoustic guitar, and I got some lessons it was their group lessons at Hartnell Community College.
Wow.
And I was like probably the youngest kid in there, still probably the tallest kid in there, but it
Yeah,
was
how tall are
mostly,
you, by the way?
I'm pushing 6'5", man, but who knows?
Yeah,
Your
yeah, yeah,
spine starts to get shorter as you
yeah,
age.
yeah, yeah. I'm holding on to my 6'2".
Yeah, no, probably like six, yes, 6'4" and some change. I haven't measured myself since like I was 20 or something, you know. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so where were we, man? I got
Oh,
sidetracked.
you were doing lessons at Heart now.
Oh yeah, so it was cool. So Hartnell College offered lessons, and it's probably 15 people. And I'm left-handed, but they gave me the guitar and they set it on my lap. So I don't play left-handed, I play right-handed. And yeah, they just like, okay, well, these are the cowboy chords or the first position chords, like E, A, D, C, G, F. And we started learning songs like the second week. It was like, all right, we're gonna play, the Beatles, Twist and Shout, and then we're gonna play La Bamba because it's the same chord progression, and
Yeah.
we're gonna play we're gonna play like Lemon Tree. I remember like some old like folk songs, like it was like lemon tree very pretty and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor. So the beautiful thing was for me is that they encouraged us to play and sing, so it was never like I learned to play and then had to learn to sing after that, right?
Yeah, you learned it all at the same time.
Yeah, so that was a cool approach. And every time I've taught somebody that, I'm like, listen, this is how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna show you the cowboy chords. Buy this poster with all the chords on it and
Yep.
get lyrics to your favorite songs and like just start practicing. And it's everybody that I've ever had the opportunity to bless with the passion for playing and teaching. They're able to sing and play, man.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And then after that, I kind of was like, oh man, well, I was 15. I was like, Nirvana came out, And I was like, I want an electric guitar. So that's really when it became a compulsive behavior for me, man. I spent, I probably got my 10,000 hours in like the time I was 22, between sitting in my room playing and trying to find other people to jam with.
Yep. Yep.
And then, like, I think right when I was 21, I started booking like downtown Alvarado Street in Monterey. And then it just kind of grew from there. It was
That's awesome.
Viva's was the first spot. I remember the owner Vince was like, come bring a demo. And we had just recorded a demo, which like 4 of those songs I think ended up on our first album.
And that was as Cali Nation.
So yeah, I mean, I think initially the name, we went through a couple of name changes. Locomotive, I think, was one. And then, like, you start, as that was back when, like, there was no MySpace yet.
Right.
So social media was almost, there was bulletin board systems that people would have.
Right.
You really had to kind of be a techie kind of dude or person to.
You're still handing out flyers and putting up posters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we found out, there's a band named Locomotive. Or, oh, whatever. Like, we didn't like that name anyway, but we were like Locomotive, right? So two words. And then I think we tried California Redemption, because it was like, it's in the back of your soda can. I mean, for any other state out there, people probably like, what's CA Redemption? And it's like, yeah, we get 5 cents a can or whatever.
Yeah, they don't recycle in Louisiana. I learned that when I visited New Orleans.
Yeah, they don't. Or some parts of, like, we were at, like, people just burnt their trash, man. And then it's a very old way of kind of operating out there.
Yeah, it's funny. I got started probably around the same age, not the same time because we were different age, but same age as you did. Junior high. I was at church, and they said, hey, we're starting a youth band. Anybody want to join? And I was always fascinated by music. My parents weren't really musical, but they had great taste in music. So they like exposed us to good music growing up. And I just joined the youth band as a percussionist, and also like, you're pretty good at percussion. Try these drumsticks. And then I was like, oh, you can handle the drums. Like, so then I got a guitar for Christmas with the chord chart, and I didn't get lessons though. They just said, kind of figure it out. And yeah, same thing, like you said, learning those basic chords. And I remember thinking at the time, I'll never be able to do the chords all at the same time. And then once I got that figured out, I thought, man, how do people play and sing? Because you're so worried about just keeping your fingers in the right spot. So
absolutely,
it's really, I mean, being a musician is a lot of fun. It can be challenging. Obviously, there's levels of skill, right? But being able to play and sing, like, not everybody can do that. It's and then I realized, because I had some ear issues, playing and singing actually helped me. It was hard for me to sing without an instrument, because the instrument helped me with intonation, right? I was able to like match my guitar, match the piano, like find my range. And anyway, so okay, high school, you're starting to do some stuff after high school, kind of college age, starting to do some bars, some gigs. And when you say demo, you mean an actual demo tape, or was the CD?
We got CDs made. CD burners were probably like $200 back then, right? Like,
yeah.
I bought a bunch of CDRs, a CD burner, some labels, the CD with the label on them.
So for the kids out there who are in the post iPod era, back in the day, back in the real day, it was vinyl, which is making a comeback. But after cassettes, kind of in the late 80s, early 90s era, was CDs, and all the basically MP3s that you have on streaming now, they were on a compact disc, and you could fit about maybe 20 songs on there. So you started burning them on that. And how are you recording? You recorded it on your own?
So if you know Sam's School of Rock, Sam Martinez.
Oh yeah.
Sam from the Chicano All Stars.
Yep.
He actually, he had a reggae band back in the day too. But he had a studio in the back of Wise Music. Rest in peace, Pete Wise.
Yeah, rest in peace, Pete. From Monterey Street.
Yeah, on Monterey Street, right.
Yep.
It was funny because it was like Gatsby's. I got my first acoustic at Gatsby's, and they were on Main back then, on South Main on Old Town. Actually, it's just Main. And then they had moved to that building where Gatsby's went defunct. But old music stores, and got a nylon, right? So nylon is like, if you play a nylon string, it's because you want to play a nylon string generally, or because you're learning.
Right.
But like most of the music that you listen to, unless you listen to a lot of Willie Nelson, or flamenco or classical, you're not hearing a whole lot of nylon. So I wasn't like, eventually after I got my electric, I traded that first nylon in for a steel string Fender, which I still have, my daughter has it now.
Nice.
Actually, no, I got it back. She tried to refinish it and left it at a friend's who has a cabinet shop, and I was like, no, I'm taking this back. So I still have it. It's
But
got like
the
the
part of the
strategy.
reason, yeah, beginners or like classical players, right? But then it because steel strings can be very painful, right? For the average, just like when you're working construction, you got to build up calluses. Same thing in music, like it requires a certain stamina and calluses, and the steel guitar can mess a lot of people's hands up, and a lot of people don't ever make it to the next level because they're intimidated by how painful it is. But nobody talks about that. They see being a rock star, right?
You know, they say like Stevie Ray Vaughan used like 15 a gauge E, which is like super, super big strings, right? Big sound, big strings. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that. I'll use heavy strings. I think I was using 13s or something at one point, and that was a lot of work. And then I read an article about Billy Gibbons, and gosh, I want to say it was like BB King had told Billy Gibbons, "Hey, you got some big strings on this. You need to try some eights." And so Billy Gibbons tried eights. He's like, it never went back. So now I probably use like a 9 or a 10, just whatever I have. But yeah, using the 14s is too much work, man.
Yeah, and to the audience who's not guitar players, basically there's different uh,
Gauges,
gauges and
piercings,
thickness
right?
levels that make it, sound differently and play differently. Depending on your style, and then obviously when you introduce electric and you introduce distortion and pedals and all this, then it becomes a whole different thing. I've always been kind of more of an acoustic rhythm guitar type player. Not, I never really got too crazy with the electric guitars, although I can play them. I got really big hands, and so sometimes some of those like chords are hard to. So then I just like bass is more comfortable because some of these electric guitar runs are a little hard for big hands.
This is powerful. The bass is fun, man. I like playing bass too.
Yeah, yeah, cool. All right, so you guys were getting going. You got your demo,
Yeah,
and
we have
so
more
what
songs
what
to
at
say.
what time frame was this?
Oh man, so it would have been, gosh, 98, 9, right around 2000, probably. I
So
mean,
Bradley had already passed away,
oh
and
yeah.
that sent shockwaves through the whole kind of Cali reggae scene. And I talked to Jeff from Expendables about kind of that era of like people are like, well, shoot, what's going to happen next? And so other bands were stepping up like Slightly Stupid or Expendables, and then locally, you guys were like Dubwise, and there were some other bands here
Dub
locally,
Congress,
Selena,
rest
Dub
in peace.
Congress, and Salinas, and Santa Cruz that were kind of carrying the mantle. Yeah, what was it like, kind of in the early '90s in Monterey, Santa Cruz County, in that scene?
So that would have been early 2000s.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry, yeah, late
yeah,
'90s, early 2000s.
yeah. So Monterey had a pretty strong metal scene back then. There
Hmm.
was a lot of there was a lot of metal bands, and we're probably like, gosh, Jonah and the Whale Watchers. Jonah just passed away, or Bommy just passed away recently. They called him Jonah, but just because it was a band name, it was easy to, hey, it's Jonah.
Yeah.
But that they were like the local reggae band. You had Red Beans and Rice doing blues.
Oh yeah, yeah, red beans and
Um,
rice. That's right.
through a bunch of different versions and variations. But back then you had the Monterey Bay Reggae Festival, you had the Monterey Blues Festival, you had the Monterey
Yeah,
Jazz Festival. So that was pre Cali Roots.
yeah.
Um, and so
What was
yeah,
that spot in Cannery Row? Jose's Underground. I think it was something before that, but
it's up on Wave Street or
yeah, yeah, yeah. They were
yeah,
having some metal shows there.
they
I
did. And I
remember.
played there once, but it was like super low ceilings, like lower ceilings than Moe's Alley, which is
Yeah,
for a tall guy, it's like dangerous,
yeah,
man. I have enough brain trauma from smacking my head on things from being
yeah. That's something people don't realize. Like the people that obviously, if you have a chance to be on tour or play a big show, it's pretty cool. But the local musicians who are on the grind, doing the bar gigs, like people don't, I feel like, appreciate them enough because you're really between the practice time and the gear and the loading it in and out and the being playing in like uncomfortable spots and people spilling drinks on your gear, like the people that are playing local shows, that don't always get as appreciated as they should because it's a
labor of
grind.
love, man. And it's hard to get it to sound good in a lot of these venues. It's like they're not acoustically designed. We're using
Exactly.
alls I had sound system. It's like there's so many variables for getting a decent sound in a room, and most of these places, even larger venues these days, still don't have acoustic treatment on the ceilings or
You're
walls.
right.
Like, oh, we might have a curtain or something, but it's like, man, like so many frequencies bouncing around, building up, creating reflections, early reflections, late reflections, bass bloom, just It gets
So even the Catalyst, which I love. I mean,
oh,
I
the
think
atrium was terrible sound. I think it's
it's
better now.
yeah, it's a honestly it's a terrible venue, but we just love it because it's the history and it's our
Right.
hometown spot. But yeah, the sound is not even great in that building.
Bodies always improve sound, you know. There's like it's a
Totally.
bunch of like standing bass traps just soaking up the
So
breaking
now
up energy.
a lot of the musicians, and I'm kind of in that category, are kind of lazy when it comes to practice or when it comes to knowledge. I just like to kind of jam, and that has got me through for a long time, for better or for worse. But for you, you know your shit when it comes to instruments, when it comes to sound. Like, was it just you naturally picked that up, or did you learn from somebody, or was it just an interest of yours? Because not every musician is a sound engineer, and not every sound engineer is a musician.
So I guess going back to, you know, like you got to, if you want a gig, you need a PA because most of these venues, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
we have this 4 channel PA that might work or something. Or, you know, if
yeah,
it's with the dive bar, right, where you're trying to
right.
cut your teeth and play. So Viva's Monterey, you had to bring a PA. So it's like, I went and bought this used like Carvin powered mixer that came in a rack case. It weighed like 150 pounds to lug around.
I know I got shoulder injuries from all those days.
Yeah, just these giant 15s from Wise Music, and you know, pole mount them, and just like we didn't have monitors, dude. You know, like
Right.
you just you'd crank the volume until it fed back, and then that was your just vocal mic and maybe mic a kick drum or something. You know,
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yep.
yeah, reverb would usually just like make feedback worse. So it was
Right.
a dry vocal, but hey, you know, it's
Well, for a punk or a metal band, it was part of it. Like it's sounding that way was part of the experience, you know. It wasn't like you had to have it all clean all the time because it was kind of supposed to be a little bit chaotic. But obviously, with a bar gig or a dinner gig, you want it to be a little bit more controlled. That's crazy. I we got our start too on the management side and the promoting side at Viva's. At the time, it was Monterey Live, so this
yeah.
was so you guys were getting going early 2000s. I kind of came in to the scene probably 2007, 2008. Um, and as a musician, I was attracted to it, but I wasn't really playing a lot at the time. I was playing with a few groups, and then I started to see there was kind of a lack. Oh, it's up to your dog. There was a lack of like decent managers or promoters, or you know, it was kind of like either there were the big shots or there were like shady. There wasn't really people out there looking out for the artists. You know, helping them with merch, helping them with social media was just coming out, and so we just kind of organically wound up filling that void of like helping a few homies, helping a few bands, like with their, you know, with their situation. And one of the first places we started was right there, Monterey Live, aka Vivas, which is now like a sushi restaurant or something.
Yeah, what became an Indian restaurant pre-COVID, and then yeah, it's a sushi spot now.
Yeah.
It was such a tight little corner, like because Monterey Live, they actually invested in a nice stage in the back with a decent
Yep.
sound system. Like Monterey
Yep.
Live, it was like
Some great performers there over the years.
oh yeah, and then so the bartender there who we were dealing with for bookings after we got the nod to play there from our demo, he ended up moving up to Club Octane. Paul Hasty was
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
in the metal band. And so then it was kind of moving on up. It was kind of like the difference of going like from the Aptos Club to the Catalyst or
Or
Moe's.
the was it the Lava Lounge was right
Yeah,
below
the
it, right?
Lava Lounge, right? But then he promoted a few cooler like big shows upstairs where we played up there and brought in a big ass sound system. And,
Nice.
you know, it was a lot of fun, man. You know, it was a lot of like cutting our teeth,
Yeah.
playing 4 hour gigs and like maybe taking them one break, you know,
Damn. And
like
now they're all condos.
oh bro, I mean
It's
it's
crazy.
unfortunate. You know, I
Yeah.
hope that Monterey one day has another music scene over there.
Yeah.
But we didn't really start off playing reggae, man. Like we started off playing kind of like I don't know, like acid rock almost in a way, like
Okay.
which you might hear in some of my like still mixed in with the music. And we're kind of it's an amalgamation
Yeah.
of reggae and rock and blues. The Cali Nation stuff is at least.
Yep.
You know, like all the guitar gods were like who kind of I studied as a kid, you know, from Hendrix to Tony Iommi, from Black Sabbath, Eric Clapton, um,
Wow. Legends.
Santana, uh,
Yep.
you know, then all the songwriting from like the Beatles to Bob Dylan to the Rolling Stones and Hendrix and Neil Young, just like really, really brilliant songwriting back in the day. I think a lot of it was heroin influence, but um,
Yeah, usually the best art has other elements involved in the creation of that art, of said art, because it it can be unhealthy, but it can also unlock other parts of us that we might not um tap into sober, right?
right, that's right. I mean, I no longer mess around with pills, but at one point, like, yeah, take a couple of opioids, and because it's just not even safe to try to get that stuff anymore, for one, but two, it's like a compulsive addictive behavior, and that's something
Right.
I'm trying to shed from my life.
Right, right. Yeah, it's tough, man, with, you know, you start off just wanting to have a love of music, but then, a lot of people in that scene can be drawn to certain things. And, we've all had, friends that just couldn't handle it. And for whatever reason, just it was too much. Right.
Well,
And the lifestyle.
nothing beats the endorphins and the dopamine rush of performing, man. When you have a great performance, it's like
Yeah,
it's an incredible high. And so I see
it is.
how easy it is to, if you're doing that every night, get that high, and then it's done.
Right.
How do you get higher than that?
In normal life. Yeah.
Yeah, with cocaine, heroin, and alcohol. It's like,
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Well, there's all these funny memes about how, you know, Keith Richards and Mick Jagger look better than all of the people in Congress that are also in their 80s. But the rock stars look
They're
better
running around
somehow.
on stage, like getting their workout. They have personal trainers. I've heard stories of Keith Richards like going into dialysis. I call it dialysis, but
Yeah, wow.
that's yeah, that was a cynical me, man. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get to that guy too.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's all part of the process, right? And I think, embracing all the different parts of us. And that's like you said, with music, sometimes one, it can be an escape for people. Two, as a performer, you almost get to be an alter ego, right? You almost get to like um yeah, you just get to be somebody different, or a different
Still trying
side of
to
yourself.
still trying to figure out the alter ego part, man. It's like I don't know, I try to be me, but at the same time, it has to be like an amplified version of you, right?
Right, right. Yeah, it's not something totally different. It's just a different aspect of who you
Right.
are, right?
Exactly.
As you guys were kind of coming up, and I remember I was, like I said, a little younger, but I do remember some of those shows and some of those bands in Monterey and Santa Cruz and Salinas, and those festivals that you mentioned. But then all of a sudden, part of it was Cali Roots, part of it was social media. I just felt like um, Cali reggae really had a resurgence, like in that kind of mid
Oh,
2000s.
absolutely. I mean,
And it was like all of a sudden it went from like just a local thing to like, oh damn, this is like a big deal. And obviously roots reggae from Jamaica has been huge since the 70s, but this other version that we do here in California, or even in the islands, it's kind of its own unique, child or take on
genre.
that.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like a merger of rock and reggae. And it really, in the last, 10, 15, 20 years, has really become its own thing. Right.
Absolutely.
And you guys were there in the early days, know a lot of the same people. We're doing a lot of those shows, playing with a lot of those bands. So you specifically in the Monterey County area, I feel like there, after Cali Roots, there was a bigger scene and more bands kind of going after that style and that genre. I'm trying to think of, we named some earlier, but another band that held it down for a long time, Celine, for like Wasted Noise, right? Or
Absolutely. Yeah.
those guys held it down. And then I was playing,
Noise, all those guys. I love
yeah,
this.
all those guys. I was playing with Pacific Grown, I think, is when we met, and you recorded a single with us. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of how we connected there. Obviously, I know Mandy as well and grew up with her, but it just, it's cool how it all kind of came together. And then there was a cool scene. I know we did like the 831 Love thing, and that was kind of a cool. Um, yeah, there's just always been this, Sugar Bear. There's always been this community of people that have kind of kept it going in this area, and obviously you've been a big part of that. But how did it feel to watch it kind of grow and evolve? And then I know you've moved away at different times, and now you're kind of coming back into it. And how has it changed over the last 20 years?
There's absolutely a huge, reggae is infectious, right? So it's like you hear it, and it's like, why do I feel happy? Well, I mean, unless you're super in tune with your senses, you just go, oh, I like reggae. It makes me feel good, right? But it's like I think a lot of it has to do with the tempo. A lot of it has to do with synchronicity to like maybe our heartbeat. I mean,
Yeah.
I could get, we could try to talk about it on a physiological level, but I'm not even versed enough in it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
ultimately, the message of reggae is of a communal one love message from Bob Marley, right? Or it's a militant message, right? Or you take Peter Tosh, he's like, like the Malcolm X to Martin Luther King as he
Yep.
to Bob Marley. So it's a great form of expression, and it is danceable, right? So
Right.
let's say you're playing punk and people are moshing. Well, I mean, I would like usually I people start moshing. I'd be like, oh man, I don't want anybody to get hurt, right? Because you
Yeah.
care about people. And there's like pretty girls up there dancing. You're like, no, let's get the pretty girls back there dancing. And so
Yeah.
I think reggae is an easy way to get pretty girls to dance, but I think it also has a beautiful message. It has a communal aspect to it, and it just feels good, man.
Yeah.
The core message from a lot of the roots that I studied earlier on, it changed my perspective, and it kind of saved my life in a way.
Yeah, totally. I feel that. When did you make the transition from, being a musician and being a performer yourself to also getting into production? And because that's how we met. You had a studio at your house, and you were producing some great local acts and doing a lot of work in that regard. And you, I mean, I remember working with you. It was great. Like, your stuff when it comes to production. How is it just trial and error? Or did you like, how did you
A
get
lot
into
of
that?
trial and error, a lot of reading, man. It goes back to the whole 10,000 hour theory.
Yeah.
About become a master at anything. You do it for 10,000 hours and you'll become a
Yeah.
master. And I want to say, like, I'm probably still like on the amateur level of recording and sound engineering. I mean, I don't think I have that many hours yet, but a lot of it I spent reading it. A lot of it I found mentors. A lot of it was trial and error. A lot of it is just there's a lot of science involved in it. So you can study the science to a degree, but it's like when it comes down to it, it's like what sounds good. And every artist, every producer, even listener is going to have a different take on what sounds good to them. Um, I, so I mean, I don't know that I have a specific like sonic formula for doing
Sure.
that, but I definitely have go-tos on how I approach miking a drum kit or a guitar amp or vocals or horns, or and then what I go for in the mix, how much compression, how much EQ. EQ is more of a cutting game than in boosting. um you want to cut out the frequencies that aren't being heard and the ones that don't sound good, and so
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. You guys were we were talking about before we started recording how during the pandemic you decided to change it up and head out to the south and to
yeah.
Texas and or Northeast Texas. Tell us about that experience and kind of what that was like, and then what brought you back home to this area.
So we moved out to a little cabin in the woods, man. We're about 15 minutes from a grocery store or a gas station. It was very rural, very remote. It was on like 7 acres of treed land. So it was like kind of, the rest of the world seemed to be like falling apart, right? Like COVID, it seemed so uncertain and indefinite, and it was kind of like a safe haven. And the South, a lot of the South didn't wear masks, didn't have social distancing, so it was like it was a respite from the chaos that
Yeah.
ensued from COVID. Um, and the people there's Southern hospitality is real, man. The area
Yeah.
that we were in, there's an artist by the name of Leadbelly, and he's a blues artist from early 1900s, and he was just right over the border in Louisiana, about 20 minutes away, the town he grew up in. So that, and it has a very deep resonating like musical roots there, right?
Yeah.
So Lead Belly probably became most popular through Nirvana's my girl, don't you lie to me, tell me where did you sleep last night, in the pines where the sun never shines. So that's I was out in the pines, man.
That's cool. That's
We
cool.
had copperhead snakes, we had alligators, armadillos, bugs bigger than you've seen. If
Yeah.
we have so much.
Anytime because someone complains about California, I'm like, have you been anywhere else in the States? Because
California is a beautiful place,
it's
man.
different.
It's a beautiful place. It's diverse. The culture here, the culture back there, it's the South, man. It's got a ton of history, but it's not California culture. And I think experience have well, like let's say, yeah, back to Castroville School. I got jumped my first day. Kind of moving to Texas, I got jumped my first 4 years and I left. It was like they didn't like Californians, and I learned how to talk like a Texan a little bit. I can
Yeah.
I can I can wax I can wax a southern accent need be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that wasn't the that's not it's not me, dude.
Right. Right.
So where are you from? And I would just say Salinas.
Yeah.
and then let them figure it out. Where's that at? There's also Salina, Kansas, which is not Salinas, but
right.
um, yeah, don't come to Texas voting like you voted in California. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
you got to worry about me. I don't believe that the ballot system is as accurate, as honest as it could be. But
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there, man. I don't want to get political. I'm very
Well, that's the cool thing about. I mean, everyone has rights to their opinions or whatever, but that's the cool thing about music, for the most part, is that it can be unifying, right? So you go to a concert, even especially like a reggae concert, and you're gonna have people that voted all different ways, people that have all different faiths, people have all different lifestyles, but they're singing the same song, right? And that's the power of music, especially reggae music, is that it really kind of brings people together. And it's it's tough because there's that feeling, you're like, is it cultural appropriation? And there are some artists that I do believe are inauthentic, but a lot of what I think Sublime built, and what a lot of the bands around here have built, is they pay homage to the roots, but they made it something else. So it'd be one thing if they were trying to be the original thing, but they're not. It's become something else, and it's like a mixture of those other things. And speaking of Louisiana, it's like a gumbo, right? It's like you had all these things in there, and then it ends up tasting really good. Separately, those things are cool, but so that's kind of how I look at it. Like, you can honor the past and the roots, but make it your own. And I feel like a lot of the bands in California have done that.
The Cajun Creole food, you mentioned that, you made my mouth water. There's some exceptional.
Oh my, so good.
Texas, they're Tex-Mex. Good Tex-Mex places are good, but 90% of them are just very mediocre.
Yeah.
I did find some like gems, but it wasn't like here where every Mexican place is like above par.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'd go back there. Like,
California has the best Mexican food outside of Mexico, in my opinion.
New Mexico's got a pretty nice variant, like they use those hash peppers there.
Yeah.
I would always stop in New Mexico, and when I was passing through, you come out of Arizona and you hit Gallup. Gallup has some pretty good New Mexican spots. But yeah. So yeah, we were talking about my ADD brain just switching up on me.
It's all good.
And we were talking about purists and purists specifically. And to me, music is love, man. Music is like it's a way to create, it's a way to connect. And I don't have a specific preference for purism or any variation in music, man. It's to me, it's like, if it sounds good, if it was written with intent,
right?
Like intent to create, I mean, if there's soul in it, if it's got grit, like, I like it. It doesn't matter if they invented.
Well, right. And that's the test, like I said, if you're trying to like be an exact copy or replica, that's one thing. But it's like, it's with recipes with food, right? Like, you can't call it a certain thing, but you can be maybe inspired by those ingredients and kind of make it your own. And then it's a whole different thing, right? And like you said, the proof is in the pudding. If it sounds good, it sounds good. If it tastes good, it tastes good.
Well, and the same thing happened with blues in the late 60s. Like you had the British blues explosion. You had these artists back there emulating the records that they heard from America,
right?
From the Rolling Stones to the Beatles to Led Zeppelin,
yeah,
to Cream, and so Eric Clapton makes sure to pay homage to those guys every every year. A lot of those, I don't know. It sounds different, but I like them both. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
It,
Totally.
it's just because you get moved by something and you latch onto it and you fall in love with it and the style and it makes you feel good. You just do it. It's not a how pure to the original form does this have to be, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So how long ago did you guys come back to California?
We moved back September, just end of this last year of
Oh
2020.
wow. And how's it been being back?
It's been wonderful, man. You can't make old friends is one of the biggest lessons that I learned from moving to Texas. I've made a lot of beautiful new friends over there who I'm still in contact with. I got to play music with a lot of people over there that are really talented. Um, and I'm stoked to have had the experience, but it wasn't home, dude, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that. And for me, because I think the pandemic really highlighted that for people, like really can live anywhere, and like moved. A lot of people moved to other states or work remotely or whatever the case may be. My wife and I have both lived in other countries at different points in time.
Mhm.
We travel a lot, and we know that at some point we're going to be living in another country, even if it's short term, maybe not forever. But like we feel like, yeah, we could go live in Mexico or New Zealand or Europe or somewhere
Why
for a year
not?
or
You
two.
know?
Yeah, teach or do music or whatever. Um, but and then the thought was, well, we could move to other states, and it's just like you said, man, home is home. Your people are your people, and there is definitely pros and cons to living in Monterey Bay. It's expensive and it's not as exciting as other places, but if you're from here, you can appreciate all why it's awesome. And one of the things that has made it cool as I've gotten older, I think when you're younger in the scene, you're out there, you're trying to make it big, trying to get signed, you're trying to meet girls, you're trying to all whatever the reason you have for going out partying. But as you get to the stage where we're at now, you get in your later 30s or 40s, and you're kind of more settled into who you are and who your friends are, and you're just doing it for the love, right? You're not trying to whatever make it big. You're just happy to still be playing music. You're just happy to be doing gigs. And one of those local spots that we both love is our friends at 101 Wine Press, and that's been a cool thing that has been there for Prunedale over the last couple of years. It's like it was so well received because it was so needed, and now it's become like a cool spot where a lot of us play music. And I love playing there, and it's are there bigger venues? Could we go on tour? Could we do this? Yeah, I mean, we're working on some stuff currently, but I still love just playing the hometown spots and seeing my friends, and I'm happy in that spot, right? Tour is fun, big festivals are fun. There's a time and a place for that, but I love playing local spots. So tell us about kind of coming back, and seemed like right away you got right back to where you were.
So I came back um almost like a refugee, dude. Not my personal life was in like a kind of a state of dismay. I quit drinking in July. Not like I was hitting the bottle hard every day, but that's been transformative for me, really. Gaining a
That's great,
whole,
man.
like, first of all, if you have past traumas, I highly recommend like just stop drinking for 6 months and let your psyche process those traumas, man. Like cry. There was a
Yeah,
point where I was like crying every day, and then at one point it becomes tears of joy because you're just moved and you feel human and
yeah,
connected. You're not cynical and you're not repressing these emotions and feelings and stuff. So
it's
um,
powerful.
when I came back, I had been playing at 101. Nick Olson and his family, the Olson family, beautiful people at
Yeah.
101 Wine Press. I had been playing there like the last gig I had booked there prior to moving. We had to cancel because of the COVID shutdowns. I was doing
Oh,
acoustic solo shows
that's
there.
right. That's right.
So when I came back, he was one of the first places I stopped just to say what's up. He's like, Andrew, we got to get you on the books. And I was like, dude, I'm living out of my forerunner right now, dude. Like I got
Yeah.
I got like a small, I didn't even have a PA yet. I brought a guitar, an amp, and an acoustic amp that I could sing through.
Wow.
So then I was like, playing solo it's it can be rewarding, but it's also you can also very much just be like put in the background as background music, and that feels like, I don't know, having some interaction and people watching you
It's a different thing.
versus,
Yeah.
versus being a fly in the wall who just is there performing.
Right.
I was like, well, I'd rather suffer that with somebody else. Not that I'd be suffering. So I hit up
Yeah.
Moni Lujan, who's been a co-conspirator with me for quite some time. Back to like when we transitioned into reggae, we had back, I think the band was still called Locomotive. Natividad Creek Park, they double billed us with Dubwise like shoot 25 years ago. I think
Dang.
I had a VHS tape that my daughter just brought me from her mom's house.
Dang.
And
We need to bring those shows in the park back, man.
yeah, that was a cool that's a great park, man. It's beautiful, beautiful amphitheater. But yeah, I remember being like, oh, like they play reggae, we should learn some reggae. So like, what's the easiest Bob Marley song everybody learns to play? It's Stir It Up. So
Right.
like, hey man, we're gonna play Stir It Up. Like Moni, you want to come sing it with us? It was like Moni and Mike Tuttle, who used to be part of the Dubwise crew, came and sang Stir It Up with us, and we played a butch like metal drummer trying to play a reggae beat. I'm still skanking like upwards, like until you get the feel of the downward skank. It was very much like a punk rock almost take on.
Yeah. That's
But
awesome.
after that, now then I started writing in that fashion, but still incorporating some of the guitar styles that I really valued into the music, right?
That's dope. That's
And
dope.
so
Well, I'm glad to have you back. Obviously, we're gonna continue the conversation. And hopefully I'll get to jam with you guys soon. I don't think we've ever really played together.
I
We've
can't
been
remember the time. I mean,
we've
outside of recording you,
yeah, we've recorded and we've been on the same bill, we've been on the same show, but I don't think we've actually played together ourselves. And
no.
so we got to make that happen. So
Yeah, I'm open to it, man.
yeah.
I'm working right now. Moni and I got this project. It's a duo, but we're ready to scale it up too. Um, we've produced backing tracks, but like to me, they work. Like they sound great. We're using, you know, great drum sounds. We're using good keyboard sounds, and then he plays bass. I play guitar and sing. But like we're ready to scale it up with live keys and live drums
Nice.
and take that to town.
Well, that'll be fun. That'll be exciting. Well, where can people find you, and what's kind of the next gig you got coming up that people can check out? And then
I'm playing
we'll have a
acoustic.
follow up soon, and I'm excited to
Yeah,
see what's next for you guys.
yeah. Instagram is a good spot to find me. Facebook too. I have Instagram. It's Andrew Nack Music, and then we're calling this project with Moni Righteous Sound. Um, I created one page, and then Instagram was like, "Oh, add this person," and then like after adding 25 people, it's like, "Oh, this is a bot, or you've given your password." I'm like, so I had to.
Oh,
They locked me out of that account completely, so I created a second one, and
oh,
it's down 831. I had I'm I'm playing an acoustic solo gig this Wednesday at in San Juan Batista at Daisy's.
cool, cool. All right, cool. Well, I'm excited to, part of what I want to do with this podcast is just have these conversations with friends that I've known for these years. And we've had these conversations privately. It's like, no, let's have it in this platform and share these stories. And I've had a few friends reach out and be like, dude, I'm loving what you're doing. And I forgot about that story. I remember that time. And so I know people are gonna watch this and have the same reaction. And I'm looking forward to a good spring and summer of music. And I'm looking forward to jamming with you guys. We're glad to have you back in town because you're a big part of this whole scene, and you're an OG, and we're glad to have you back as a musician, as an engineer, and I'm excited to see what you guys do next. So let's keep the conversation going, and I'll let you close it out. Any last words, and then we'll go from there.
Beautiful. So what? One last thing. One of my dear friends and also like musical collaborators, Nathan Martitius, passed away last May 10th. He was
I'm sorry.
the front man of Dub Congress, and him and I had a side project years back called Cali Dub Pickle. We released like a 5-song EP. It's online. It's great. But the band Dub Congress is doing a tribute concert. I've been rehearsing with them weekly. I'll be playing in the band and singing a couple of Nathan's songs. It's May 10th at Moe's Alley.
Cool.
To give a shout out for that. That's it's going to be Moni Lujan doing a couple songs, myself, Ben Lowe, who's had a band called Free Energy back in the day. Now he tours with Pato Bantan as his guitar player, so he's coming up.
Awesome.
It's going to be a really good show. We've been rehearsing the songs. It's and it's just paying tribute to somebody who really, he gave me my first shot at the Catalyst, opening up for him back in the day,
Wow.
and went on to be, he was the only friend who drove to Texas to see me actually too. I'm getting all getting all set,
Wow.
man. But he,
Wow.
he was a beautiful human, and I'm happy that we get to, pay our respects to him musically. May 10th at Mose Alley. It's a Saturday.
Well, may he rest in peace, and thank you for sharing that. And can people get tickets on the Mose Alley website? Probably.
Yeah, if they're not sold out yet, dude, I'm serious. Like the
Yeah.
Congress when they played Moe's, it would just sell out because they have that Santa
Right.
Cruz following they've
Yep.
had for 30 plus years. So
Totally. Awesome. Well, bro, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I'm so glad that you're back home. I'm looking forward to reconnecting and jamming together this summer. And if I'm able to, I'm gonna try to check out that show if it's not already sold out. But that's beautiful that you guys are doing that tribute in that way. So I'm excited to see all the content that comes from that. And keep doing what you're doing, man. Mentoring the next generation and just continuing to build the scene that you help start here locally. So thank you for all you're doing, man. And we'll be in touch.
yeah, and I'll be releasing some new music very soon. I got 5 or 6 tracks that are almost done. We just put horns on it a couple weeks back. Just got to do a few more edits, and yeah, so there'll
Awesome.
be some new music coming out.
Can't wait to hear it, man. We'll see you soon. Can't wait to hear new
Love you,
music.
Jordan. Thank you for
Take
your
care,
time.
brother.
Yeah.
Yep.